for Skermon today. Hadley is going to be saying, if you know, she's not. That could be dangerous. Yeah, that's the microphone. Yeah, no. Sorry, I said your name, didn't I? Righto. So I'm going to give Skermon a crack. Daniel was actually on the roster today, but given he did such a good job last week, figured we might make him get back up and do another one this fast. Righto. So I've titled this In God's Time because I felt like it needed a title. I'm going to read you 3 bits of scripture, and I want you to see if you can identify a common theme between all of them. So the first one is Genesis 41:46. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Okay, there's the first one. The second one is 2 Samuel 5 verse 4. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. Thank you. And the last one, Luke 3:23. Now Jesus himself began his ministry at about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, the son of Heli. Thank you. Righto. So hopefully we identified a common theme there in that they were those 3 individuals, quite important individuals in the Bible stories. You've got Joseph, rose to great heights in Egypt. You have David, obviously reigned as king, and then you have Jesus, and he had a pretty big impact on the world. They were all about 30 years old when they kind of hit that point in their, career. You could say a turning point, you could say the starting point of the great things that they did. But I was reading that, and as I came across each of those verses, I read Joseph, it didn't really click. When I read about David, I was like, I'm sure someone else was about 30. And then obviously when I got to the New Testament, I was like, hang on a second. So I kind of pondered that for a while, apart from thinking it was interesting. And I kind of wondered, why was it relevant to maybe mention how old they are? Because the Bible does that a few times for different things. And I thought it's probably to indicate something about life experience. That's kind of what I put it down to. Can I have that? Oh, we'll try. So I had 4 questions to stem from that. And so what is God preparing us for? How is God preparing us? Are we trusting God during this time, and are we listening to God? And so I thought about it. Joseph, obviously, before he rose to power, he had to face some pretty harsh trials before he was appointed to that position that he was. I'm just going to palm off a small human. Tag. One day she'll be up here with a microphone, and then we'll be in trouble. All right. Obviously, David had some things he had to go through before he became king. And Jesus, well, we meet Jesus when he was a young boy. We hear about him talking in the temple, and then we kind of meet him again when he's 30. But I imagine for each of those people, there were some trials they went through. There was some growing up they went through. There were some things they went through to get to where they were. And so I just kind of was thinking, how do I apply that to myself? And I think our experience of time is very different to God's experience of time. What we consider to be a long time is not really much to God. And so when we want something, or we decide that we want to be something or go somewhere, quite often we want it at a very different time or speed to maybe what God has in store for us or has planned for us. So we might want things now, we want them next week. Online shopping is great for that. It tells you it's going to be here tomorrow. We don't seem to have this ability to wait for things. But that's not just online shopping, but our careers, our livelihoods, growing our family, buying a house, okay, feeling that we've reached the point in our life that we're supposed to be. And we sometimes, I think, question, well, why didn't that happen? I went for the promotion. I've been doing this job for 2 years. I think I'm the best person for that job. Why didn't I get that promotion? Why didn't I get that job? Why didn't we get that house? Why wasn't that the person for me? Okay, and things don't always turn out the way they should, how we think they should happen. And then, on a converse, we twist that sometimes when they do, we're often disbelief. If we think of Isaac and Sarah and Zacharias and Elizabeth when they had kids kind of thing. So I think we can fall into this trap of trying to force things to happen rather than letting God's will be done. Okay, and that's a really big step back to be like, you know what, career-wise or life-wise or whatever, I'm going to step back and just put this in God's hand. And one story that kind of always leaps to mind whenever I think about putting trust in God, have a friend from uni. I think I've told this story a few years ago at church, but had a friend, Jacob. Jacob was a great mate of ours through uni, still is a good mate. Musician, very passionate believer in Jesus. He was kind of one of the first people I met that was like, wow, that's a really obvious faith and not ashamed of his faith. Jacob went through several relationships that didn't quite work out, and then he had this really profound statement one day. He said, I'm obviously just not meant to have a girlfriend at the moment. I'm going to wait. I'm going to put it in God's hand. Now, as someone who was in a relationship, I was kind of like, wow, like that's a big, bold statement. Well, a few years later, he met a girl. They're now married, and they seem to be quite perfect for each other. Just not even them, but even like their family dynamics. Like Jacob grew up without a father, and his wife grew up without a mother for part of her life. So Jacob's father-in-law kind of filled some of that void for him, and then Johanna got a mother kind of on the other side. So it was this really nice meshing of God's plan for them. I feel like I've gone slightly off topic, but my point was that sometimes we do need to wait. Sometimes we do need to think about what God has actually got planned for us, and it might not be the thing that we think we want. And with that, I felt like this applied, but Proverbs 16:9, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Okay, so I'll just close in prayer. Dear Lord, again, we thank you that we have you to lean on, and we just ask for a measure of trust be renewed in our hearts, that we can trust that you have what is best for us, Lord, that we know ultimately you have everything planned and everything will happen according to your will, but sometimes we lose sight of that. And so I just ask for a renewing of our trust and ability to leave things in your hands and not be too crestfallen if things don't always plan out the way we feel like they should. In your mighty name, amen.